I'm Mark Davis of B&W News, reporting from the Denver Gold Group annual conference here in Denver. And I'm here today with Yale Simpson, the chairman of Exeter Resources. Yale, how are you today?
Hey, Mark.
Good. I understand there's been a sizable development with your company as of recently. Can you elaborate upon that?
Yeah, well, we announced, Mark, the 26 million ounces, and ahead of that, we'd announced back in March that the project's 24 million ounces of gold. So it's got bigger. It's a lot of copper, as you know. There's 5 billion pounds of copper in that deposit. So where it's now at is 26 million ounces. The categories for that is 80% measured and indicated. So overall, there's really little. The project risk is diminished. The deposit risk is diminished significantly. In other words, it's there.
Okay.
So the question now is, how much money do you have? Where are you going to go with this? What's the game plan? And rather than you asking me the question, I just asked it of myself. Okay. The situation is, we are in the process of getting close to letting the contract for a major engineering company to perform a pre-feasibility study. In other words, now that you know the deposit is there, what are the economics of the development? And it takes a major engineering firm who has expertise in Chile, just because it's a very big, very big discovery. We're actually doing this in two pieces. One is the top of the deposit has about 1.5 million ounces of gold, most of it in the measured category, which is amenable to, it's what we call oxide gold, to heap leaching approach to development. It's a sort of, at the scale it is, it's a sort of, the pre-feasibility study on that project by itself would look at approximately 200,000 ounces a year of gold production. We're doing that as a standalone study because it's the sort of thing, given Exeter's market capitalization of $500 million, just rounded out, it's a sort of project that we could build. And there are similar projects, one just north of us, just kind of over the hill, you can see it from the property, is an operating mine by Kinross, which is doing just that.
Sure.
The other part of the pre-feasibility, Mark, would be to do the major study on the oxide plus sulfide, and then you're contemplating the project that's very analogous to what Barrick Mining are doing or contemplating immediately south of us. And as you well recall, it's only 6 miles south where Barrick has bought 75% of that deposit from smaller companies and is now contemplating this $4.2 billion investment to take it to production.
So in as much as Caspiche constitutes a world-class gold discovery, I take it Exeter will not try to commercialize the deposit itself?
Well, no, and that's a good question. On the oxide resource, it's the size that we could do something with it. We could do that. We have the capability financially, technically, to take on that sort of thing. So you could say, okay, option one would be to Exeter to go forward as a 200,000 ounce a year producer. Option two is to either joint venture the big project or sell the big project, because that's the sort of project would lead to 800 to 1 million ounces a year of production, and a whole different skill set when it comes to technology, financial, and it's very difficult to imagine an Exeter doing that by itself. It would be a real stretch, not only just because there's a lot to do on it, but the timelines between here and first production on the massive project would be likely to be 7 years. Whereas on the smaller project, you could say that would be 2.5 to 3 years. That's something that would have an immediate impact on the company. Hence, there's two pieces to the pre-feasibility studies. Unfortunately, we're fully financed to do this work, and so we're simply proceeding. But it'll come out in news releases over the next little while, what the scope of the project is, who's doing the engineering, and how we're taking it forward.
Okay. And finally, what other key value drivers do you envision will continue to drive your share price higher for the next few months?
Yeah, well, the value on you need to commercialize the project. commercializing it is typically put in production, but the first stage of that is to show that it's actually got legs to be a mine.
Okay.
So we've got $500 million worth of value essentially created by Cheryl. It's costed $50 million to do that. But the catalyst going forward then is to do an engineering exercise on it called the pre-feasibility, which takes it from this $20 per ounce valuation, which is what the market would give us here, up to the valuations for projects that have been demonstrated to have commercial potential. And typically they come in at about $50 to $60 an ounce in the valuation parameters that's struck for them. So $20 an ounce up to $60 an ounce is where we'd like to be. And that timeline to get the engineering done to put that away would be about 9 to 11 months, just nailing that down. So the big catalyst will be the pre-feasibility study where the whole project becomes potentially real as against it just being a high quality resource.
Okay. Yale Exeter Resource has one of the biggest and best gold discoveries of the last couple of decades, so I do wish you continued success.
Thanks.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much. Good talking to you.